Alright, so I decided to build a cigar box guitar. It is a guitar made out of cigar box. Back in around the early 1900s, people used to make this because they didn't have money to buy real instruments, but they still wanted to play a lot of the blues music. It was around when that stuff came out. So they started building instruments out of their own stuff. Now for preparation for this build, I was visiting a few sites like artofmanliness.com, and I also knew a little bit beforehand about guitars and stringed instruments. Going on, my materials I used a 5-foot, a 2-inch by 0.75 inch plank of cedar, an old cigar box, a set of machine heads, which are the things that are used to tune guitars at the top of the neck. 7 guitar strings, I broke 4 of them. 2 bolts, 2 screws, 17 nails, and 34 staples. Tools I used a power saw, a table saw, pencil, square, stapler, power drill, super glue, numerous clamps, piano for tuning, and a sander. So starting off, I first had to cut the wood to what length I wanted it to be. I didn't want it too long because then the strings would not fit. If it was too short, I couldn't play it right. After that, I took off the machine heads off of an old guitar. You can see right there, it's one of the machine heads disassembled. Next, I marked where I wanted the machine heads to go on the guitar, drilled a few holes, put them in, screwed them on the back, and it worked just fine. Next, I had to put in the fret positions. The frets are the marks on the guitar of where the note is. And every fret position is different depending on the guitar length. And the way we find that is using what's called a rule of 18. And what you do is you find the scale length, which is from the bridge to the nut. Take that, that's called your scale length, and you divide it by 17.817. And it'll get you the first length of the first fret, first space. Then you subtract that from the original scale. And you divide it by 17.817. You get the second one. You do that until you reach your numbered up required frets. I did, looks like, I did 18 frets. So I did that 18 times. Also right here you can see my first bridge that I did, or not, I'm sorry. And the problem with this one, it was chipped with paint, and that broke a few strings, and it would buzz the strings, it would cause, interference with the strings. So I took that off and I put a new one on that you'll see later on. Next, I had to put holes in the guitar box, in the sound box, which is the cigar box, and I had to sand down the neck so it would fit inside of the cigar box. This was probably one of the hardest parts, because if you don't do it precise enough, it'll have a dip in the instrument, and I didn't want that. If you don't sand it enough, then it'll have a bulge, and that's no good either. And then right here, you'll see the finished project without strings or frets. That took about roughly 6 hours of my time. And you can see right here is where I drilled the sound hole, where the sound will come out. Moving on, I finally decided I wanted to do frets. The first time I tried frets, I used a wire. The problem with the wire, it was too flexible. It would bend on me all the time, and it wouldn't stay on the neck. So instead, I took a bunch of nails, 17 to be exact, and 34 staples. I stapled the nails onto the fret marks that I made with a pencil and a square, and then I took a hammer and a flathead screwdriver to secure the staples and the nails. And then I was just about finished, but I had to get a pick and a slider. Sliders I used traditionally for blues instruments, and that's kind of what this is a blues instrument. And the pick, I used what's called a pick punch. It's basically, it looks like a 3-hole punch, but it picks out of credit cards. And this was the final project. You can see I had the new nut right there. The bridge, I used half of a screw, or a bolt, and I super glued it on there. Cranked it on for about 2 minutes, and it stays just fine. And this works by, sound is created by vibrations. And as the string vibrates, the air molecules surrounding it vibrates at the same exact frequency. But the problem is with the air molecules, they're so spread apart that the vibration isn't loud enough for to play. So that's why we have what's called a sound box, which is the cigar box. and it vibrates off of that. Since the molecules in a solid are much more dense together, they vibrate to the same frequency of the string, and it makes a louder sound. And the tighter the string is, the higher the wave frequency is, the wavelength is shorter, which means it's going to be a higher pitch. Okay. And so to tune this, I knew that the frequency of an E4 was about 329.63 hertz. And so I went to a piano, which was already tuned, and I turned the first string, which was an E, and I wanted this to be kind of a blues tuning, so I used what's called an open E, where it goes E, B, E. And what that means is the first string, the thickest string, and the highest string are both an octave. So that's an octave together. The reason I did this is so if I wanted to play chords with the slider, I just have to move it up and down the neck. I didn't have to switch up finger positions or anything like that. So now I will play a scale. Now I will play easy song. Moving on, I wanted to demonstrate with the slider too, so I'll play a little bit of chording for that. With the slider, I just took a metal pipe I found in the physics classroom and I cut off a piece of it. It fits around my middle finger just nice, which is quite the relief. That is my Cigar Box guitar.